Welcome to the 10:30 session here, entitled "Everyone Knows But Few Get It Right: How to Use Hedging to Secure Your Farm's Profit." It's my honor and privilege to introduce Adam Hooker. I've known Adam for a number of years. We've crossed paths in a couple of different capacities, but look forward to his talk here. It's really focused, and I'll just read this verbatim so we can get moving. So today we're going to address a common reality. Most farmers know about hedging as a risk management strategy, but very few use it effectively. Our goal today is to show how, with the right approach, risk management can be a game changer for farm profitability. Adam will offer practical steps to help farmers avoid common mistakes and implement hedging correctly. So Adam, I'll go ahead and let you introduce yourself, and we'll get running.
All right, thank you, Daryl. Happy to be here, guys. I realize last session on a couple of long days here, so I'm going to plug through this thing. First, give you a little bit of background. I grew up on a farm in eastern Iowa, a hog farm. My dad raised pigs, and so grew up doing all the pig things that everybody does. I went to Coe College in Cedar Rapids, graduated in 2002, and then I spent 5 or 6 years as a financial advisor doing farm estate planning, helping farmers all over work on transition planning. And that career led me to Brenneman Pork, where I spent 10 years as a controller and CFO. And that's really where risk management and the financial forecasting and financial reporting became a part of kind of what I really enjoyed doing. And so I spent 10 years working at Brenneman Pork, and in 2018 started Future Profits Consulting. And this year we have acquired and are merging with a brokerage firm out of Cedar Rapids, 88 Hedge. So our team has been growing as we've been helping operations with risk management and accounting services. So here's the team. It's more than just me, even though it started with me. Our goal is to help people, like a lot of you in here that help people. And we've got 3 of us in the office here that are consulting. We've been building up our accounting services. Something that we've seen and that I believe has got a lot of value is knowing where you're at financially. And maybe not so much just knowing where you're at, but where the heck are you going to? And so as we've seen that value grow, and I think the need and the requirements are going to tend to go that way, we've been building up that service to help support our clients and others. And then AJ and Bill, that was the 88 Hedge acquisition that we've made. As we're growing, call volume picks up. And so just to have more help and assistance and some more people in the office, we've got that going for us too. So, the title of today's talk, How to Use Hedging to Secure Your Farm's Profits. So unlike a lot of these risk management things that you go to, I'm not going to have a bunch of charts about where the market's at or where the market's been. I'm not going to give you a market opinion of what I think, because I don't think that matters what I think. I'm going to talk more about the method that I think works and that consistently works over time if you follow those methods, and what that process is and why we have breakdowns in that process. There's no shortage of people in this industry to help you guys with risk management. There's people that do it well, right? There's lots of firms that do it well, but what's the right fit for your operation is really what you're looking for, and what can help you execute better. So when you're lacking on content, you want to throw a bunch of pictures in. So I'm going to have some pictures in here. Most of the room, I think, will get it. Sometimes we've got some demographic challenges where, guys like Trevor that work with me don't understand the good movies that we had that we can reference as you're going through a presentation, and hopefully everybody gets it here. So I'll make some attempts at humor as well. I told my wife I was I got some good movie memes in here, and she's like, "Oh my God, sometimes you're not very funny." And I was like, well, hopefully I have fun today if you guys don't. So if you came in here looking for, market charts and market opinions, I don't care. You're not going to get that here. So want to kind of focus on what do we think works and why it works. And so how many producers do we have in the room? I see a couple, okay? Thanks for sticking around. Why are you guys in business? Crickets. Nobody knows. Is it to make money? Obviously, we've got a business because we want to make money, right? So profitability is essential to any business. But is that all? Is that all we're in it for, is to make money? And if it is to make money, well, how much money are we trying to make? Have we quantified what we're after there? Do we want to thrive in business? Do we want to grow? What does that look like? And what kind of growth are we looking for? Is it growth in the pork sector? Is it growth in the ag sector? There's a lot of questions that come around growth that you probably need to ask yourselves. And we have worked more and more with operations that are transitioning. The producers that raised your hands in the room, some of you guys are getting closer to transition than you are ramping up maybe. And so risk management we think is essential in there as we're looking to bring on a generation that doesn't have the equity that maybe the current generation does. Well, how do we bridge that gap in risk reward and have that conversation? So, lifestyle is something that a lot of times people will say is, well, I grew up doing it. We love the farm lifestyle. But it all comes back to, in my opinion, if we're not profitable, everything else we want to do gets pretty hard. And that's why you've got bankers and advisors that tell you every year, you need to get better at risk management. You need to know where you're at in your business so you can move that business in a positive direction. So if we know that's what we need to do, what's the problem? And, again, I tried to throw some memes in here just to entertain. But we've gotten pretty good at gambling on profitability. We see opportunities, and in the back of our head, we think there's something we should do about it, and then we don't. And so we've gotten used to tolerating a lot of risk in our business, and we just have accepted the fact that, well, it's part of the cycle. The hog cycle is it's 3 years up, 3 years down, and you just kind of ride that thing out. And whether we're using risk management or not, we still kind of fall into that trap of risking too much. And so what we see is there's really 3 problems that we battle. There's external problems, there's external forces that come in, and that can knock us off course from doing what we think we should do. There's internal problems, things that are inside our business that aren't allowing us to have success. And then there's also the philosophical problem of, okay, why are we not doing the things that we feel like we should be doing? Why do we repeat this year after year? Or why one year does it work and next year it doesn't work? So we've got those problems to work through. And so to kind of break those down a little bit, when we look at our markets, we've got volatility in our marketplace. And you guys all know it if you're looking at the markets. If you've looked at them today, we're up $1 in hogs today. We were down $4 a week ago on Monday, and by the end of the week, we were back to where we were. This volatility in our marketplace is not going anywhere. We've got more information, more technology, more participants in our market. The volatility is not going away. But I don't think it's our enemy. I think it's our friend. We need opportunities. We need market movement to create opportunities and to give our market some legs at times. And so we got to figure out how to use volatility as an asset and not a detriment. And, these opportunity windows that we get when prices do elevate and we have profitability, I'd say in the last 10 or 15 years, that time frame is shrinking. If you're not prepared and you think you're going to sit back and wait, a lot of times we get to the summer market and we're maybe disappointed because, well, shoot, that price that the market offered me earlier in the year is no longer here, and I'm disappointed. So those opportunity windows, are shrinking. And then another thing that's unique to agriculture that's an external force is we got production variability. We don't know for sure how many pigs we're going to have 12 months from now. We don't know how big the crop is that we put in the ground in the spring. But what we do know is it's never really been zero, right? Anybody ever raised a zero corn crop? Anybody marketed 0 pigs when they planned on marketing whatever they were thinking at the beginning of the year? No, right? We always figure out how to adjust and pivot to keep our operations going. So we know there are some things that make it difficult, especially in pork, maybe more so than anything else with the amount of diseases that we fight, disease being number one. Weather affects our grain crops, which is our input prices. And so those uncertain production factors often keep people from doing what they should because they feel like, I don't know if it's going to be there or not. And we look at it and say, you've been doing this for how long? Bill in our office says ground sells for $17,000 an acre because a high percentage of the time it grows a damn good crop. You guys are in the pork business because you're good at raising pigs. And so we're going to have something there. And then another external problem that we fight, we like to just call it the noise. There is no shortage of commentary, whether it be audio, emails, whatever. Everybody's got an opinion of where this market's going to go. I think it's going here. I think it's going there. And so that gets into your head, and it keeps you from doing things you should be doing because we want that to work out. And oftentimes it's market, or we're in a commodity business. It's supply and demand driven. It is, I heard that supply is disrupted, or I heard demand is going to be fantastic. Therefore, I'm going to change my approach to what I do because of some of this outside information that's coming in, and it's echoing in my head. And what we end up doing is, all right, we're pulling our hair out because all these things are happening. We're frustrated because it's not what we thought, or it's not what somebody said. And then we're confused as to why. And at the end of the day, we go to bed, we're stressful about where the future profitability of your operation is headed. So those are the external problems. What about internal problems? Jerry Maguire, classic video. I think, anybody not seen Jerry Maguire? The only guy here that hasn't seen Jerry Maguire came with me, I think. I don't know if Trevor's seen Jerry Maguire. So, good movie. Help me help you. The answer to these internal problems is always already in your business. We just got to expend the energy to go find it. We got to get organized, okay? So, what is your cost of production? I've never met anybody that has not paid their bills and is still in business. So, somewhere we know what we're spending to make this machine go round and round. But how do we get it organized so we can understand what our cost is? Evaluating margin needs cost. Prices are irrelevant if we don't know what the cost of our product is. And so we got to know what our cost of production is. And then how about goals around profitability? What are we shooting for? Kind of depends on what our cost is, but do we have goals? Do we need anybody to help us do those things? Well, maybe we need help to get there, but we have this information. So these are internal challenges that we got to work through. And then we haven't prioritized either. The unfortunate thing about the pig business is you can do everything right on risk management, but if PRRS knocked on your door and it hits your only sow farm and your only sow source, our cost of production is going to look pretty bad. Profitability gets difficult. So, we got to prioritize. What's most critical to our operation? What are you the best at? If risk management is something that's hard for you to do, maybe you should offload that to somebody that can help you do it better. And you can go focus on the things that you're good at and elevate those instead of trying to do more. And what we see is, farmers, you guys all love to do everything you can do, but what's best for your business? Doing what you are best at and finding somebody else that's really good in an area that can help you, does that move your business farther and faster than trying to do everything yourself? And so, if we're not organized and we're not prioritized, how in the heck do we know what good execution looks like? What are we evaluating? And have we created and communicated a plan? Things aren't working. Okay, what do you mean things aren't working? What's not working? Well, we're not making money. Why are we not making money? Or we didn't make as much money. Why? I don't know. What was our plan? I don't know. So that conversation just goes in a circle when there's no direction to kind of point it to where it should go. And the last thing is, we have a philosophical problem. So the external problems, things we can't control, but we know and we can manage those a little bit. The internal problems are things that we need to know to help us do better. Philosophically, we lack that plan. With no direction, we end up with poor execution and poor results. And, I don't believe we lack opportunities. If we look back at the years where we would say they were tough years in the pork business, you often can see a chart that looks like this, which is at some point in time, this thing's moving all around. This is the last February chart that, was really high. And by the time we got to February, a year ago right now, nobody felt good about the pork business if we were sitting in this room. It sucked. But, dang, there was a big, that's a maybe a 2-month window of time up there where we had some pretty darn good prices. But it was so far away. This is 12 months in advance. So this is where we were February down here. This was the opportunity way in advance. We don't lack opportunities. We lack the discipline to capitalize on them when they present themselves. And so how do we create a system and a process to where we're looking at what those are and we're doing something about it? That's what we want to do. And so how do we navigate this rough sea? If we got all these challenges, we have these problems, how do we navigate those? Anybody know what this movie is? Forrest Gump. There we go. All right. I got some participation out of the crowd in the last session. Thank you. You're going to be bombarded with noise. You know, that email or the commentator or the economist or the geneticist, whoever has that opinion. I mean, we know that stuff is coming. You got to expect that there's going to be noise. But don't go seeking it. Don't go filling your head with a bunch of stuff that's going to get you all rattled and confused. Focus on your operation and get your team ready. So those internal problems that we have, if you have resources, let's focus those resources. If you don't, find somebody that has resources and the ability to help you and determine where, get your cost figured out and start thinking forward, not looking backwards. Too often we hear, well, last year the market did this. So this year, this is my plan. Here's what we're going to do about it. And if risk management and profitability was that easy in the ag sector, guys, it would be 1 million people in the business. And there's not, because it's tough. And so don't look backwards, look forward. What are the opportunities doing for your business? What kind of opportunities is the market presenting to you today? And what does that do for your business? And use that as our guide into what we should be doing moving forward. So it's a team approach, right? If you're not good at something or you feel like you can be better, invite somebody in that team that can help. And that can be internal, that can be external. So the typical approach that in the pork business is miles ahead of every other ag sector, guys, when it comes to risk management. I credit that to the lenders pushing hard for all of you guys to start implementing, because they've seen how that can steady the ship. Not every sector is that disciplined. And what we see most is, all right, everybody's heavy on strategy. That's that noise. It's we think the market's going here, or I think this is going to happen, or this is happening there, therefore you should do this. Well, that's real heavy on strategy with not a lot of information about your operation and no idea how that integrates back into affecting your operation. And so when we have that as the common place, this is a top. When you're top heavy on strategy, you end up tipping over at some point in time, and that's the experience that you all have heard talking to someone and go, well, that guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, or that strategy totally sucks, or this tool really sucks. Well, no, what happened, it was probably a fine strategy in the right situation, but misapplied. Great tools can have poor results. You don't go fix your toilet with a hammer, right? So it's not the tool's fault, it's the misalignment, misuse of a tool. So the approach that we have seen that works, we call it the Agriculture Profitability System, or APS. And when we break that down, the definition of a system is a set of principles or procedures to which something is done or an organized framework or method. All right, so a system is a series of processes. And pork is fantastic at processes. And we've got farrowing houses that are nothing but a process. Our whole sow farm is a heat check, breed, snake it out, move them into the farrowing room. 21 days later, the whole thing is a process, and we can get really good at processes. So the definition of a process is a series of actions or steps taken in order to achieve a particular result. All right, we know what we want out of our sow unit. We want pigs. Do we know what we're shooting for when it comes to our goals for our business, our profitability around our business? My guess would be most people don't. Again, it's make money. Well, how much money do we want to make? So at the base of this approach, there's 3 critical things that we see that if we can consistently follow these processes, get this information, we can have consistent profitability. In the bottom of this pyramid, so this is a pyramid different from the top, right? Our top was top heavy, like a top that spin. Now we're talking about a pyramid, a solid foundation underneath every pyramid. The base of everything that we do that we think is important is you got to have good information about your operation. And it starts with production. We raise pigs. Therefore, we sell pigs. All right? How many are we placing? When do they go to market? Organize that production information. You also got to understand where are we at financially. Because your financial situation plays into everything that you should or can do when it comes to risk management. And you talk about goals. Where do we want to go? What do we want to do? Once you have all the information, now we can start integrating the financial reporting, the market prices, who on the team needs to be involved to get this information to make it smooth. What does it cost? That's where we determine what does it cost to raise our pigs so we can evaluate what the margin opportunity is. And once you've got organized production information, good cost information. We can now analyze margin opportunity. We have to make, and we build the model that's dynamic because things change. Is anybody's operation the same today as it was back on January 1st? Or have we had some kind of wrinkle or something change? How about corn is now 50, 60 cents higher, right? It feels different today than it did when we started the year. And so when you start having this information, you don't just build it once and put it in the closet and say, hey, I did that exercise and that was all well and good and we're good to go. What we've seen is if we don't help it change and move with you, we don't trust that information because we know that we get disease, we know that prices change, and all of those things impact it. So it has to be dynamic and it has to change as things in your operation change because they will. And if they haven't, just wait one more month. Something's probably going to come up. So when you get done, you've got a foundation here that you don't need to rebuild every year, but you got to be able to tweak it and adjust as your operation changes. Maybe we're growing. Maybe we're selling assets. Whatever it is, you build that foundation like the foundation on your house. You don't rebuild it every year. You get a crack, you fix a crack. You add on, we build a solid foundation underneath whatever we're adding on. But you take that approach, and then we can spend time talking about strategy and execution. Because now we have a solid understanding about what our cost is. We've talked about and communicated what our profitability goals are. We've got the financial information to support it. All right, now we're ready to rock and roll with decision making. So just breaking it down a little more, in that information discovery process, establish the goals, outline production operation, discuss your financial status. Where do we stand today? Do we have limitations? Do we have lending requirements? If you don't today, I think they're coming. I think the row crop world is behind pork in terms of requirements, but we've talked to enough lenders to know that, that day is coming. And I think it's coming for all of ag. When we look at the amount of capital that we have tied up in ag production, it just makes sense that our lenders are going to ask more of us as the size of these operations continue to grow. Integration process, so determine your cost of production, establish targets, integrate those current market prices, and maybe your current risk management strategy. What's our plan? What have you been doing? And once you start getting information like this, so this is just an example of once we start to organize that information, here's cost, okay? Wean pig cost, finishing pig cost. You can't get information like this unless you sit down and you organize it, and then a visual aid does wonderful things, right? If we line this all up on a piece of paper, you guys won't see a damn thing. But when I put it up there on a slide like this, you can quickly tell, holy smokes, where does most of our money go? Feed, pig, people. All right, now if we need to make some improvements or if something's not out of line, where do we want to spend our energy and effort? If a whole bunch of our cost isn't, half of our cost or more are in a couple expenses, do you think those are important? 100%. Am I going to go spend a week beating up my vaccine guy when we can't even see the sliver on the slide up there what it is? I mean, if he walks in the door, sure, we'll beat on him. But is that the best use of our energy? I don't think so. So you start to get this information, and when times are tough, this is Dumb and Dumber. He goes and blows his money on a bunch of stuff, right? And he's pissed. And when times are tight, we're critical of everything. We're looking at every expense. But when times are good, we get a little lax, and we're like, well, shoot, we're making money, and we're like wiping our nose with dollar bills. We start to lose focus again because it's easy when things are good. And that's why you got to make it dynamic, because your operation is changing. Model your production. Market prices are changing. Financial reporting. Financial reporting and financial forecasting, in our opinion, is what ties everything together. How do you know what you're doing is working if you don't have a good process for evaluating where you're at as a business? And so when you've got something that's dynamic, you can look at where have I been last year, right? Where was my balance sheet? What was my liquidity a year ago? Where am I now? Okay? And then based on the positions that I've got and the production that I expect in the market prices, where do I think I'm going? And if we can have that information, it gives good context around decision making. All right, I was here, now I'm there. We're moving that ball forward. Is that good? More equity this year than last year. Is that good? Generally, it's good, but how much? Again, let's try to quantify some of that stuff. And if where I'm going looks good, should I do more of it? Or if where I'm going is doing bad, who else needs to know that things don't look good moving forward? Whether it's good or bad, knowing where you're going has got a ton of value, and that helps you keep a clear mind when it comes to decision making. And budget. So, part of this, where am I going? You got to budget out what you think you're going to have for expenditures. And that's the budget to actual exercise is fantastic. We do a ton of budgets, and we're doing budget to actuals. They're never spot on. But what it forces you to do is have a conversation about, well, what has changed? Right? Why did we miss on some of these things? If we got production disruption, obviously that's a big thing. But sometimes it's just lack of focus. Or dang, I didn't know. We didn't pay attention. We didn't know what was going on. I'd rather look at that 3 months into a year rather than 12 months at the end of the year and see a bunch of wasted opportunity that we didn't have a conversation about. So ultimately, what we want to get to is where we're taking action on strategy. The bulk of our time with the people we work with, guys, is spent on the top part of that pyramid. It's strategy and execution. But it's only because we spent the time and the energy and the effort to make the foundation solid. And so what we get to is a point where we're capitalizing with confidence when that market's moving around. That price volatility we're talking about, those small pricing windows, when you're all organized, now you can capitalize your trust in that decision. You're more proactive than reactive. And I like to say hindsight is foresight's worst enemy. Again, I said earlier, last year the market did this, therefore I'm going to do this. Well, when we look backwards and we're using it to skew what we're going to do moving forward, we like to say insight is the solution. What's it doing for your business? If the current market prices are doing good things for your business, that's our call to action. I don't know if last year is going to repeat itself, we're all making so much money that this thing it's really easy, and that's just not the case. And so we want to be using that information to make smart business decisions. And when you spend the time and the energy and effort, you create a tool like this, which is a margin calculator. You got all of your costs in here because you dug them out of your financials. You know what your cost of production is. I don't even know if you guys can see that. I don't think it's very, very big. But we've got a market price for pigs, our cost of production, and our profitability. And I believe, this example, we freshened this up yesterday, but at $104 pigs and maybe a $48 pig or $45 pig, $45 to $46 per head profit, 22% return. If you went to Wall Street and said, I have a 6-month investment that returns 22%, how many people do you think would buy that? First person you meet. Absolutely be like, hell yes, I will take that. But yet we don't look at our business that way, and we're not evaluating it on a return basis. And so we go, well, 45, shoot, it's almost 50. Maybe we'll wait for 50 because 50 is better than 45. And we're not making smart business decisions. But what we've seen is when you start to turn that around, you start talking return, all right, 22%, dang, if I was getting that in my 401k every year, that would be growing a lot. At 7 to 10%, you double the value in 7 to 10 years. So if we can return 7 to 10% on your equity, that means you're doubling your equity in 7 to 10 years. So if 22% shows up, we're moving faster. We're going the right direction. At a minimum, we should be doing a whole lot about that. But that's where you get that information, and now we can use that to help you make decisions. And you got to run through the success cycle in order to believe that anything works. And so I stole this from a Tony Robbins book that I read, but it is exactly the process that we go through when it comes to risk management. And what it's got is everything starts as potential or a strategy, right? I've got this strategy that I want to work. But until you take action, nothing happens. So it's a conversation. Once we take action, this is where the fun starts. This is when PERS blows in. And this is when China does stuff, or whatever. The market starts to move and we go, oh, shoot. Man, I sold hogs or I did something. I don't like it now because these other things are happening. And then when you take action, you have to stick around to see the results. But it's in here that we get impatient because we hear the noise and we start to experience some production variability and challenges. And we start going, oh, I don't like it. And then we change course. From what we had planned out, what we had talked about, and why we took action, we changed course. And then we look back after it materializes and we go, well, that didn't work. Well, no kidding. We didn't see the whole success cycle through. So when you take the potential to action, experience the results of what you intended or what you were targeting, now you believe it works and success sits in the middle. And we always say, take success out and put profitability in there. If we're targeting a profit objective and we follow that approach, what we see is get really damn close to it. Is it perfect? No. There is no perfect system. But in a year's time, we turn our hog buildings twice a year, right? We get a lot of chances at this. Typically, in a year's time, we can experience that as long as we don't bail out in the middle of it. Does that make sense? So if it's so easy, why is it so damn hard? The problem is it's easy to do and it's easy not to do. Those external factors we talked about, it's nothing new. You guys know all that. The internal stuff, okay, that's not new. Can you do it? Absolutely. Does it take effort? 100%. Does it take resources? Probably. But can we do it? Yeah. These are things that are not hard to do, but they're also not easy not to do. Another reason why we don't is there's a temptation that comes in and we feel like we're going to miss out on something. Anybody ever felt that way? Jeez, I know that's kind of what we were hoping to get, but geez, if this thing keeps going up, how good can it get? What's going to make it go down? Or I need to hit a home run because last year we got hit with PERS, or last year we didn't do marketing last year and the market tanked, and so we need to hit a home run. And we start to mess with our philosophy on why we're doing things, and it takes us off course. So when we boil that down, we go, hey, we lack discipline. What is discipline? It's doing what you should do when you don't want to do it. Why do we not want to do it? Because I don't want to miss out. Or it feels like this is the year we're going to hit that home run. Which means we lack maturity. Okay? Maturity is wanting to do what you know you should do. Discipline is doing what you don't want to do. Maturity is wanting to do what you should do. And so therefore we need a little wisdom at time to time. And that is helping someone understand why or what they should do. And just being a sounding board for operations, when we boil things down and we give folks good information, and we start to support the decision that we made that now I feel like I'm missing out, and you say, well, gosh, I guess if we were hitting our goals, we didn't set our goals high enough, but if we're hitting our goals, is that a good thing? Yep, that's why we sold. We were making good amount of money. Did we know the market was going to go up? Hell no, we didn't know the market was going to go up, otherwise we would have waited. So reinforcing, hey, why are we doing these things? And then should we stop doing them if they're working and we're hitting our goals, or should we keep on doing them? So stay disciplined, and that's where we just try to come in and be the sounding board, because it's emotional. These markets move fast. Getting disease in your farm is tough. Those things aren't easy. And so the 4 major reasons why we don't succeed is that one is greed. We want more. And we think, when we set our targets, we think that that's good until good gets there and better shows up, and then we're kind of pissed about it. So what do? We wait for better prices. That's the hope, right? I hope market prices are better. And if they do get better, well, then I'm going to do something about it. But then we also got, this margin calls, the nasty margin calls that we get that, God dang it, I'm sending my money to Chicago, and I did this, and now I'm missing out on an opportunity, and it's taking my cash today, and I'm going to run out of money, and my neighbor didn't do a damn thing, and he's getting ahead of me. And so we've got this fear that kicks in about, what if I do something, or when I do it, what's the result of what I'm doing? And so the 4th reason that we don't do it is we got uncertainty around what the outcome is. If we're supporting all of those decisions with good information and what it's doing to your business, and you believe it because you've run that success cycle through, your confidence starts to go up. But when you don't have that, we have very low confidence about the outcome. So when we see the markets going up, we're worried about this. Then we start waiting to do more. And then we're pissed about the first thing we did up here because the market spiked and did something, the margin calls, and it's all because we don't know where it's actually putting us for our business. If you had that in front of you, hey, this thing gets a lot easier to do, and it gets a lot easier to repeat. And so we were at Pigski here last week, and somebody had mentioned that, actually it was Jared that works with us, said, the difference between expectations and reality is discontent. When we're expecting something good, and the reality is it's not as good as we think, discontent fills right in that void. But if we can put information in there, and we can put support and explanation around what's going on, we can temper that discontent a little bit, and we can get back on track. Okay, a few things to watch out for. Dumb helpers. The heck is a dumb helper? It's pretty much anything that thinks, guys. I think the price is going up. Kevin thinks the price is going up. He thinks, she thinks, or I heard there's a lot of whatever. Market intelligence says, I got this good market intelligence thing from a bunch of people in a city somewhere that they're sharp, yet that market intelligence keeps us from doing intelligent things. I don't know if it's market intelligence or unintelligence, but most of the time it isn't helping us, it's adding to it. Or my buyer says, or I heard China, so what we want to do is focus on what you know. What's the current prices do for your cost? What's the current prices do for your revenue? The difference between those two is our margin opportunity. So what does it mean for your business? Not all of that other stuff, because if we had that all figured out, again, everybody can make a lot of money doing it. And what are your risk tolerances? How much risk should you take? How much risk can you take? And then maybe why would you take a lot of risk? If you got a lot of money that you can make, why would you risk not making a lot of money if we hear a lot of times, well, I got good equity and I don't need to do anything. Well, do you want to erode that equity? If you got good equity, that should mean you got tremendous return opportunity. Keep that thing rolling. So what action should you take? Traded in the sheepdog for this mini bike, get 70 miles to the gallon, seemed like a great idea, right? I mean, that's the kind of stuff that we got to avoid dumb decisions. And old habits die hard. And why do they die hard? It's because they work sometimes. That time that I did whatever and it worked, that was great. That's greed, hope, and fear. And we remember the big wins or remember the big losses. Some people remember the big wins and they don't remember the big losses, and some people remember the big losses. It doesn't matter which one you are. A lot of times that's deterring us from what we're doing, and we don't want to fall behind. And so what you end up with is inconsistent profitability, stagnant business growth, maybe strained lender relationships because we haven't communicated very well what our plan is, and maybe we have some wild results where it looks really good and it looks really bad, and we're trying to work through that. And sometimes that leads to tough business decisions where you got to downsize or we got to sell assets or we whatever those things are that we got to do. But like Forrest Gump, boy, I can still remember that first pair of shoes. Mama said they'd take me anywhere, and gosh, remember that one year when we did nothing and it worked, or we did something crazy and it worked? Probably not the right answer. So to review, what does the APS system look like? It starts with setting goals. Reasonable, achievable goals that are right for your business. Organize that information, both production and financial information. We can't gauge a market price without the cost. We got to have that financial information. You got to integrate what the current markets are and evaluate what that margin opportunity is, and then we can fit a strategy to it that works for your operation. And then once you take action on your goals, stay disciplined. Don't abandon ship, because I promise you, change is hard. Doing this is hard. You're going to be met with adversity. That's what change brings. It's challenging. And then you got to be able to evaluate it. Properly look at the success of your business on a profit and loss basis, on an accrual basis. What is actually happening is the only way to tell if what you're doing is working. If you're not doing that, we don't gauge success by how much money did you make in your hedge account. Because you have a lot of money in your hedge account, you can lose a lot of money in your business. Is that good? Well, if I'm a broker and I'm saying, hey, we traded for profit in your hedging account, that's good, right? Well, yeah, but I lost my ass because we didn't hedge things right. That's not good. So the goal is profitability at the end of the day, consistent profitability over time, and the evaluation is the proof that the process is being done correctly. Oh, wrong button. And that's a success cycle. Working that thing through is what it's all about. And when you do that, the marketing, we feel like we don't have control over the markets, but following this process puts you in control. It's a simple process. It's not easy. Once you clarify what those profit objectives are, now we're aiming at something, and commit to taking action when they present themselves. Don't do the pivot. Don't let those external forces change us from what we're doing. And we got to, that greed, hope, and fear, we've got to get away from that. And if you can do that, what we have seen is consistent growth is achievable in this business. Now, what I'm talking about here is not perfect. When we have disease on your only source of pigs, that year is going to be challenging. But when we can look back and say, okay, if we weren't profitable, what happened? Was it the risk management plan that failed, or was it some production challenges that caused us to get derailed a little bit? Get back on track, because we know we can consistently be profitable, and that leads to intentional growth. Now we can have conversations around how are we growing, where are we growing. That improves our lender relationship. Again, good or bad, if we know where we're going, lenders appreciate it. And what we feel like is when you take this approach, it reduces the amount of stress around marketing. And it allows you to focus on your operation and those things that maybe you enjoy doing more or you're better at than risk management. So if we boil it down, the more information you have, the more obvious the correct decisions become. Therefore, it's an easier decision to make. That's what we want to get to with risk management. Support it with enough information that we don't have all of the problems and we don't second guess it. And we don't have greed, hope, and fear. And so good information supports good decision making. And that, that may seem obvious, but in the moment, it's really challenging. And, I'll end it with Captain Obvious here, right? That's all I got, guys. Thank you. Appreciate you hanging around. Daryl, I don't know if we're taking questions. If there's anybody that's got any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, so I guess, Adam, as I think about this, and we're going to go to, let's see if that works. Does this work? Is this on at all? On the power? Okay, perfect, good. So Adam, I guess, and we're going to open up for questions here in just a second, but I'm curious, I appreciate the process and all the framework. If I'm a producer in the room exhibiting some risk management strategies today, and I've got a call with an advisor or have an internal group, if you were to boil it down, thinking about the one thing that I should do differently when I get home tomorrow, or when I think about what's the one actionable thing, because I think when we come to these types of sessions, it's easy to, it's like, oh, yep, I like that process, but what do I got to do in order to get started? Or what's just that takeaway piece, the sweet spot of like, hey, if you do nothing else, think about being able to do this one thing. Where would you guide people to at least start?
You got to know your cost of production. Figure out what your cost is. Figure out where you're at, and then that's where everything starts from. Is what does it take for me to raise a pig? Historically, the best place to look is looking backwards, because we have that information to evaluate it. And then once we've got that, now you can make reasonable assumptions about what do we think it's going to cost moving forward. But it all starts with cost, guys. That's a price is a price. Profitability is price minus cost. And so we have to know where that is at so we can make good decisions around cost.
Very good. Who has the first question? We don't need to be shy. Who has the first one? Is it the guy leaving, maybe? Maybe he's got a question. No?
All right.
Okay.
No questions.
Yeah, if there's no question, that's fine. But yes, definitely. And Adam, if people want to get a hold of you, is there a best way to track you down or follow up with?
Yeah, I'll hang around here for a little bit. If somebody's wants a card, I've got a card, and we can get you our contact information. Or you can reach out to Daryl too. Daryl has our information. Again, appreciate y'all hanging around for the last session of the last day with a snowstorm beating down on us. So, thank you.
Good deal. All right, thanks everybody.